Good morning, everyone, and good morning, sir. Good morning, classmates. So I am the last reporter of the topic Philippine Watershed Delineation, Philippine Watershed Delineation of Drainage Areas. So the Philippine Watershed was discussed earlier by my partner, Miss Mejillas, and he tackled about any kinds of watershed. So I am the one who will report the delineation of the drainage area. So let's continue to our discussion so that we can understand more what is delineation of drainage area. So before that, let me introduce myself. I am Christian Mark Mabido and I am the last reporter. Next. Watershed delineation. So let us define what is watershed delineation. So it is the process of identifying the drainage area of a point or set of points. So as you can see here, sa ato ang figure, sa ato ang picture is the X marks here is the area of the point or the set of points that we can identify. So it is a topographic map that we can use para ma-locate nato ang mga watershed or mga streams or iba pa nga bodies of water. So karing mga gagmay nga lines there is a contour lines nga naga ah, naga pasabot nga it is like mountains or something like land or valleys or ridge or just like that. So this X marks is the set of points or the points that we should identify. For many years, civil engineers have been using United States Geological Survey or the USGS paper maps for watershed delineation. So even before, our civil engineers use this kind of paper maps or yeah, the USGS to locate or to know the watershed delineation. So it is very important to follow this so that we can make a proper delineation of drainage area. So next, before we proceed to the discussions about the delineation of drainage area, let us recall first a little bit what is watershed. So I know every one of you know already the watershed, but because Mejia was reported earlier what is watershed, so maybe we can recall a little bit so that we have more knowledge what is watershed. So let's watch together this video and please listen carefully so that we can understand more.
To understand what a watershed is, think of a bathtub. The top rim of the tub could be the hilltop, the sides are the slopes, the bottom is the valley, and the drain represents the lake. Anything poured inside the tub ends up down the drain. The water poured closest to the drain gets there first, but all of the water eventually reaches the same destination. When snow melts or when it rains, the layout of the land around you determines how quickly the water runs. Some rainwater seeps into the ground and becomes groundwater. Some evaporates, and the rest runs downhill into our wetlands, streams, rivers, and lakes. One place that clearly demonstrates how water moves across land is on a parking lot. Next time it rains, notice how the water appears to move in sheets down to the sewer drain or low spot. That sheet is the runoff of a small segment of the watershed. A watershed is an area of land that catches rain and snow, which drains into a marsh, stream, river, or lake. Homes, farms, forests, small towns, and big cities can make up watersheds. Some watersheds cross municipal, provincial, and even international borders. Watersheds come in all shapes and sizes and can vary from millions of acres, like the lands that drain into the Great Lakes, to a few acres that drain into a pond. A watershed defines Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority's boundary. The branches of some of the largest creeks that flow through the Niagara Peninsula, like the Welland River, 20 Mile Creek, and 40 Mile Creek, reach all the way up into the city of Hamilton and the county of Haldimand. Everything that is done on a watershed affects the quality of water within it. Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority conducts programs that monitor and report on the quality of our watershed's ground and surface water. NPCA also implements programming that helps keep our drinking water safe and helps keep people and property safe from floods and other natural hazards.
So, natapos na to, no? At natapos na to tanaw ang video. So, we have a little knowledge or nasabtan gyud nato what is watershed. So, watershed idea is a high area of a land where rain collects. Some of it are flowing down to supply rivers, lakes, etc. and at lower levels. So, karing watershed is above sea level or sa high land. So, mo siya ang naga-adapt sa mga or naga-collect sa mga rain or sa mga snow and etc. So para ma-flow and flow down, flowing down to supply the rivers or other bodies of water. So next, watershed delineation and drainage area measurement. So watershed or drainage basins are comprised of a network of streams, channels that link from smaller to larger, providing conduits for surface water runoff, and sediments transport on the Earth's surface. So, watershed or drainage basins are comprised of a network such as mga channels that links from smaller to larger, like lake or mga river nga ikan sa ato ang watershed. So, topographic map. A map characterized by large-scale detail and quantitative presentation of relief, usually using contour lines. So, mo itong gidiscuss na ko gaina nga katong map sa kilid nga picture mga contour lines. So, this is this one. So, these are the contour lines nga represent the mountains, the ridges or the mga valley or mga plain land. So muna siya ang in overall muna siya ang topographic map nga ginagamit para maka identify ta sa mga drainage area sa atong watershed. So karing mga blue area it is a river, kari siya mga river ni siya ari, and kari is mga conduits mga contour lines na ina-represent sa katong inong gaina mga valley or mga ridges or mga hills or mountains. So, next, steps in delineating a drainage area. So we have 12 steps paano ma-delineate ang drainage area. So step 1, use a topographic maps to locate the river, lake, stream, wetland or other water or bodies. So mo na siya gaina tong kari topographic map. So malukit na to diri sa mga lake, water bodies, river or any kinds of water bodies. So topographic map plays a very important role in locating any kinds of water bodies. So this example, West Branch or Big River. So ano siya mo siya ang Big River. So mo niya ang mga gagmay niya nga branch nga naga-flow po ang iba't ibang water. So these are some of our example in atong topographic map. Next, step 2. Trace the water course from its source to its mouth, including the tributaries. These steps determine the general beginning and ending of the boundaries. So as we can see in our figure 2, West Branch sub-watershed. So aring West Branch sub-watershed, mo siya mga gagmay nga mga rivers nga connected sa dagko nga river. So aring sub-watershed ang tawag sila or mga tributaries. So, pero ano siya po na siya karang water or bodies siya po niya supply sa iba't ibang mga lugar. Pero gagmay lang ni sila, di siya like karing big river nga ilahang murag mouth or from ilahang beginning. So mo na siya ang example. So for example kare gagmay nga mga nga sub-watershed nga padung dito sa mga palayan or sa iba't ibang areas isa padulong sa lake. So mo na siya example sa matrace natong water course from its mouth because of the topographic map. Examine the brown lines on the topographic map that are near the water course. These are referred to as contour lines. So let's try to imagine this is a brown line. Brown line siya kahit tungod imagine nato nga tungod dili siya colored. So contour lines. So muna siya ang mga contour lines nga atong i-determine sa topographic map. So contour lines and an example point X at an elevation of 70 feet above sea level. So kani siya mga contour lines kini siya nga ma-determine nato it is kung it is a pond or it is a lake or it is a river or any kinds of water body or any kinds of mga mountains. So these are the contour lines. Next, contour lines spaced far apart indicates that the landscape is more level and gently sloping, such as they are flat areas. Contour lines spaced very close together indicate dramatic changes, rise or fall in the elevation over a short distance, such as they are areas step areas. So we can see in the figure D4, floodplain and ridges. So makita nyo din different kinds of contour. Kari siya is lagyo-lagyo, kari siya is duol-duol lang. Kari siya mga dikit-dikit nga mga contour lines. So these contour lines nga dikit-dikit it means they are the step areas or rise or fall. So example, it is a ridge. So ridge is like a mountain or a hill nga. Makita nimo mga downslope niya, mga nyani, kari mga nyani niya. So mga downslope niya nga naga-indicate siya nga it is a ridge or kanang pasak or mountain nga paana siya pasaka siya na kanya. So kari example there is karing lagyo nga maps it is they are flat areas or such as valleys or mga kapatagan or unsa pa na any kinds of mga land. So muna sila ang mga example diri. So next, check the slope of the landscape by locating two adjacent contour lines and determine the respective elevation. The slope is calculated as the change in elevation along the straight line divided by the distance between the endpoints of a line. So for example, kari it is a valley. So mo niya ang mga indication niya ari check the slope of the landscape by locating two adjacent contour lines and determine their respective elevation. So kailangan nato i-determine ang iyang mga elevation so that we know asa ang mga watershed nga mag-flow ang mga water. So we should check the slope of the landscape. Next, determine the direction of drainage in the area of the water body by drawing arrows perpendicular to a series of contour lines that decrease in elevation. Stormwater runoff seek the path of least resistance as it travels downslope. The path is the shortest distance between contours, hence a perpendicular road. So for example, kari, kabaliktaran na siya sa valley, ang ridge. So ang ridge is like ari. Saka siya, so ari ang valley. So is example of the step number 6. So we should determine the direction of drainage in the area of water body by drawing the arrows. So drawing ng mga arrows direct, for example, dire and muna siya. So next, step number 7. Mark the breakpoint surrounding the water body. The breakpoints are the highest elevation where half of the runoff would drain towards one body of water and the other half would drain towards another body of water. So, for example, kari mga tuldok-tuldok, wala siya ang mga breakpoints or the highest peak of the mountains. So, kari siya is a mountain. For example, kari siya is a mountain. So, it is the highest peak of the mountain or the highest elevation where half of the body run off. So, for example, na snow or mag-ulan, ma-determine na to asa mag-downslope ang water, diri ba siya padulong or diri ba siya padulong. So we should mark the break point so that we can determine asa padulong ang mga water. So these are the break points. So ari ang mga arrows padulong diri, arrows padulong diri pababa. So ari siya mga break points ana-ana. So these are the example of the step number 7. Identify breakpoints. Connect the breakpoints with a line following the highest elevation in the area. The completed line represent the boundary of the watershed. So mo ni siya ang watershed boundary kay gi-connect na nato ang mga points sa or mga breakpoints. So mo ni siya ma-identify na nato siya asa ang mga watershed or boundary of the watershed. So ang completed line mo ni siya ang completed line nga represent the boundary of watershed. So asa ang boundary niya, diri ba siya padulong or diri ba siya padulong. So we should identify the breakpoints also and connect the breakpoints with the line following the highest elevation. So it is a highest elevation of the point or the in the map. So it is the example. So step number 9. Once you have outlined the watershed boundaries on your map, imagine a drop of rain falling on the surface of the map. So we should imagine daw if, for example, na ay ulan or na ay snow or melting of snow dala sa ano, falling on the surface of the map. So, for example, kari, idealize watershed boundaries. So, we should daw imagine daw ang drop of the rain. Imagine the water flowing down the slope as it crosses contour lines at the right angle. Follow its path to the nearest stream that flows to the water body you are studying. Imagine this water drop starting at different point of the watershed boundaries to verify the boundaries are correct. So, imagine daw nato daw ang imagine a drop of rain falling on the surface. Imagine the water flowing down the slope as it crosses contour lines at the right angle. Follow its path to the nearest stream that flows to the water body you are studying. So, for example, sa mga streams or mga rivers, so we should tanawon do nato kung asa siya kung or tinuod ba or i-verify nato siya kung atong gi-study is tinuod ba kung nabad siya gadaloy nga tubig or na mga waters o body of waters nga naga-flow dito abanda. So imagine this water drop starting at different point on the watershed boundaries to verify that the boundaries are correct. So that is the steps number 9. So distribute copies of your watershed map to your group. So if ever tapos na ma-verify tanan ang step 1 to step 9, so we should distribute our copies of watershed to map to our group. So para ma-start na nato ang pagbuhat sa delineation of drainage area. So if ever na verify nato nga ang watershed is correct, ang ato ang kiplat dito sa ato ang topographic map, ang mga contour lines is correct, so let's start to distribute the copies of the watershed map to our group. So 11, watershed sometimes have the term sub-watershed within them. So mutingin na ugain na itong mga rivers good nga dagko na siya mga sub-watershed nga itong mga gagmay sa kilid-kilid. So mo to siya ang rivers, large streams, lake, and wetlands watershed often have more than one sub-watershed, usually smaller tributary watershed within them. Generally, the larger, usually smaller tributary watershed. So katong pakita na ugain na to na yung mga big rivers, na siya mga waters or mga sub-watershed sa kilid-kilid. So mo to nag-supply po sa mga water sa iba't ibang lugar. So generally, the larger the water body you are examining, the more sub-watershed you will find. So more sila nga, if ever mas dako ang mga river or mas dako nga lake or mas dako nga mga streams ato ang ginasadihan, mas daghan siya og mga sub-watershed nga ato makitaan. So your watershed map can be further divided into smaller section or sub-watershed if it is help organize your study better. So the more your watershed map can be further divided into smaller section or watershed if it helps organize your study better. So mo to siya. So last is once the watershed and the sub-watershed boundaries have been delineated on the map, your team can verify them in the field if necessary. So if tapos na tanan, so the uh, we can verify dito sa field yatong ginastudian if necessary daw if karang gusto na to siya i-sure nga mao na gito. So these are the 12 steps about delineation of drainage area. So thank you for your listening and hope you find lesson and thank you so much and God bless.